What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. We're just roughly 4 weeks away from the start of Arkansas fall camp, but we got some things to get to in between now and then. We've got plenty of recruiting news coming up. A lot of Arkansas's prospects have scheduled when they're going to make their announcements. That's coming up in July. We've got SEC Media Days in Dallas. Sam Pittman and I guess 3 of his Razorbacks will head to Dallas for that on the last day of SEC Media Days. We're going to hop on with Danny West to discuss the latest in recruiting. We're going to talk a little bit about the start of the football schedule. We're going to answer your questions as well. All that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. So many ways to watch and listen to the show. Of course, we're streaming on all different platforms. Subscribe to those platforms. And also, I'll read some, at the end of the show, I'll read some of the Apple Podcast reviews we got. Certainly appreciate you guys hopping on and doing that. Getting close to 1,000 reviews. Love to have that by football season. That would be really cool. Also, Hog Sports right now is 50% off. This just started today, so we're running a promo for a limited time. 50% off at HawgSports.com, so you can jump in on all the latest recruiting news that's coming up this month. You can jump in on all the everything that's happening with football coming up in fall camp. So that breaks down basically to $1.03 a week, $4.48 a month. It's billed at just $53.70 for the entire year. There's also another option. You can try us out. You can take a test drive if you want. Sign up at Hog Sports for 1 month, or excuse me, for $1 the first month. Again, that's HawgSports.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, one of the 10 largest sites in the country, regardless of where we are in the country. Take a lot of pride in that. So come find out why we are so popular at your number one independent source for Arkansas sports and recruiting. Also, if you're a monthly subscriber right now, like you're paying full price, you can upgrade also to the annual for 50% off too. So that's available to current subscribers also who are on a monthly plan. Okay, we're going to get to Danny West here pretty quick. We're still working on Danny's studio, so that will be done pretty soon. But for now, we still got him the old way. So audio is not going to be perfect, but it's a lot better than it was when we were troubleshooting all this stuff. For those of you who don't follow Danny, you can follow him at Danny West 24/7 on X, and he's been with us for a number of years and just has all the coverage when it comes to Razorback recruiting. Danny, how you doing, man? Danny, how you doing?
Trey Biddy, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Happy to have you hopping on. This kind of is an interesting period in recruiting because technically, I mean, we are in a dead period right now. I mean, but there's a ton of prospects that are making their decision coming up. And, we can talk about your mock class here in a minute, but I just kind of wanted to talk to you about just some of the guys that are making decisions, if you're game.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it starts today. Got a big one announcing today. Not sure Arkansas is going to land this one, but Tavon Wallace, he's a borderline 5-star linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've got him 36th overall in the country and number 3 linebacker in the country. And, of course, he visited Arkansas. Arkansas got the first of his, I want to say 4 official visits starting on May 31st through June 2nd. He was at Arkansas. And his older brother was recruited by T. Will, who, of course, was the defensive coordinator at Arkansas. And according to Tavon, his older brother actually committed at one point to coach. And I was never able to track that down, on his profile or anything. But at least there's some history there. It gives Arkansas a little bit of hope. But I just feel like, it's a big-time kid in the extreme southeast. You got Georgia pulling at him, but it sounds to me like Florida or Florida State. And, gun to my head, Trey, it just seems like Florida State's got all the buzz lately. And
yeah, I was looking at his crystal ball has 100% picking Florida State right now. So
seems like a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of questioning down the final stretch here on decision day for Tavon. I've heard, just a couple of rumblings that maybe he may be torn. I'm not sure Arkansas is the one tearing, but I think it could be Florida and Florida State. But because he did visit, of course, I'm going to list him. But he starts today, and of course, it wouldn't be Independence Day without at least a couple of commitments. So
Zion Williams, let's start with him.
Zion Williams, 3-star according to 24/7 Sports, but a composite 4-star defensive tackle. One of the best looking kids I've seen in person in a while. In fact, he and Carius Kern visited on that same weekend want to say that was June 7th, Trey.
Mm-hmm.
They all, it gets mixed up. But I remember seeing both of them at the same time, and I told myself, I may have mentioned it to, Richard and some of the other guys too. If Arkansas can ever get two in the same class that look like that on the defensive side of the ball, that's when they'll start rolling pretty good, because unfortunately that's what most SEC type teams are getting. And it looks like LSU is in really good shape for this one. They own the crystal ball predictions. Matter of fact, I want to say 3 in a row have rolled in since, in the last 10 days or so for LSU. So not looking great there.
I was going to say, Danny, it's probably going to be Sonny Ship working on Independence Day and not you this time.
Man, I'm all for Arkansas getting as many of these types as possible, but if I could take a year off and not,
yeah. Sonny Ship, right. By the way, for those listening, Sonny is the Danny West of LSU. Yeah.
Oh, I can't feel his shoes. That's a good man right there. We love Sonny. But,
so after that, Danny, I mean, you go back inside the state. I don't think there's anybody else on July 4th, but July 6th, Amarian Robinson out of Little Rock Parkview, he's making his decision.
As well as Money Elston, Monterio.
Oh, yeah, Money.
Elston,
yeah, I can't forget about Money.
Yeah. And they're going to double up, Trey. And, I know the recent history and the recent trends look like Arkansas is losing everybody in the state. But, man, I remember a time when if you only told me that you got 2 in-state kids, Central Arkansas kids, announcing inside the state, making a ceremony together, if I didn't know anything else, I would say, man, that sounds good for Arkansas. But, given the current landscape, it probably doesn't mean what it used to. Still, seems like a lot of buzz lately for Oklahoma with Omari and Robinson. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not here to dispute that. I think, they got the final official visit in June on the 21st there, and he's been there a couple of times. He's been everywhere a couple of times. I should say that. But it does seem like with Robinson, the number 3 player in the state, big-time safety down at Parkview, seems like Oklahoma's carried most of the buzz lately, but, man, I'm not ready to call it. I still hear some things on the Arkansas side with he and Money, yes. Elston, that, it sounds pretty good for Arkansas. So I should have a better idea later in the week ahead of their decision on Saturday. Maybe I can make a final prediction later in the week. But
well, it's important to remember too, Danny, that everybody talks about Arkansas losing Courtney Crutchfield and Walker White and whatnot, but they also got Charlie Collins and some other good players inside the state. So it's not like they just go over on the top prospects. And Charlie Collins was a 65th ranked player in the country last year.
He's pretty good. Yeah. And, it just feels like that because they're so few. So they're hard to come by in the state. So when you do lose one, we've talked about that. Yeah. We won't get back into it. But with Elston, Trey, I want to make a note that, Kansas State's put up quite a fight with this dude. Mm-hmm. And, I talked to guys in Manhattan, and they've got plenty of optimism over there too. But again, not ready to make a final prediction on these 2 Parkview guys, but there's still a lot of optimism in Fayetteville for both of them too. So
I'm sure they're showing Mario Elston video of like Deuce Vaughn, another shorter running back, Chris Vaughn's son who went there, had a lot of success. So.
Yeah. And Darren Sproles way back.
Yeah, Darren Sproles.
They've had a couple there. So
Danny, back outside the state, Tom Loy, who is obviously one of the national recruiting guys, he's at 81% right now. I'm predicting 2025 prospects. He's nailed 1,718 of 2,119 prospects just in the 2005 and 25 class alone. And he has the next guy we're going to talk about, Kelshawn Johnson, wide receiver out of Hitchcock, Texas. He has him going to Texas A&M. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think several people do now. I haven't jumped on board yet, but that's just for a lack of knowledge. I don't expect Arkansas to be the pick on this one either. Now, on further down the list, if people will keep listening, I think we'll get into some that Arkansas has got a better chance at. But, yeah, looks like A&M there. But I think Arkansas should be happy with what they've got already at wide receiver. I like this Ronnie Fouch. I keep singing his praises, and I feel good about the direction he's headed. When he comes in and brings Kamar Williams, gets him out of Florida, and now that sets him up for a really good position with Kamari's teammate and Waden Charles, 4-star, former Miami commit. I think he's still one to watch for Arkansas. Just don't have a date on him yet. So, and then of course last week, 2 weeks ago, to pick up Antonio Jordan, get him on campus finally, and put the mystery man to bed, so to speak. That was that's a really good start. But to get Kelshawn on campus, I remember talking to him, and he went on and on about how Bobby Petrino. I don't know what happened there, but
that was me. That was my bad.
I see. But yeah, he talked on and on about how Bobby Petrino pulled him aside and said, "Hey, this is what we would like to do with you in the offense." Sat him down and showed him everything. I think that really made up some ground for Arkansas. But again,
I keep doing
you're
that.
talking about it.
Sorry.
It's all right. Easy, Randy. Hey, we're talking about a top 200 kid in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
It's just going to be tough. Forget the young man's name a few years ago that they pulled out of Texas. He didn't stick around long. The wide receiver. Help me out here, Trey. Big time.
Oh,
big time kid.
What was his name?
Got him away from Texas. Boy, they don't stick around long. I used to be able to tell you every name.
I'm looking. I can see his face so clearly, but I guess I just dropped it out of my memory banks because there's Danny. There's so many guys. Like I've gotten so bad at remembering people's names that I meet day to day, and I used to be really strong at that because, and sometimes it's embarrassing. Like, and I don't know, I've been a little bit more recognizable sometimes, and sometimes people will come up to me like they know me who don't, who just see me on, on this show or something like that. And sometimes I have to lean on my wife and be like, and it's embarrassing. It's like but I also have to memorize like 50 new people every single year. All the walk-ons that come in, all the new football players that come in, have to memorize their name, their number, all that stuff. And I end up doing it. I can, a week into fall camp, I'll know everybody's name and number, if I didn't know it, I'll be able to tell you everybody's. And I feel like it takes up part of my brain, and it's the same way in basketball too, because you got to remember so many new people. But in football, it really takes over, and it's almost comical. Like sometimes when I introduce myself to somebody that I know, and I'm just embarrassing.
Yeah. Flashcards, my man. I may be the only person in America still buying them, but they help me, especially around December and all the transfers. But anyway, I forget where we were going with that.
We can go to Lionel Prudhomme. That's a big gap between the Parkview guys and Prudhomme. He's out of Shreveport, Captain Shreve, inside linebacker. He's deciding on July 26th.
Yeah, inside offensive lineman, 6'3", 295.
Oh, inside offensive lineman. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. But July 26th, which is notable because you look up the recruiting calendar. We've got one open week here at the end of the month, starting on the 25th, and of course, Arkansas going to hold a cookout as they do every year, and that'll fall on the 27th. So this announcement coming a day prior to the 27th. And I like where Arkansas sits with this one. Going up against Ole Miss, he released a top 6 yesterday. Ole Miss, Arkansas, of course, Mississippi State, Tulane, the local flavor there. Texas Tech and Houston probably really comes down to Texas Tech, Mississippi State, and Arkansas, if I had to guess. But I like where Arkansas sits, especially coming out of his official last month. I just like Arkansas's chances of making it 4 offensive line commitments. And, of course, the next guy on the list that we're going to talk about could make it 5.
Nelson
5
McGuire.
line commits.
IOL means interior offensive lineman, not inside linebacker.
Yeah, we're figuring that out. But similar size there, 6'4", 300 out of Midlothian, Texas. We've got him as an 88, so a pretty good grade there. Arkansas, Texas Tech. A lot of Texas Tech going on here lately.
Yeah.
And Kansas State in the mix there as well. I think a lot of people, this one's a kind of a funny one here, Trey. The kid got an offer from Minnesota, and I want to say late May, maybe even early June, immediately took a trip up there, committed to Minnesota. I think it lasted a week. And Arkansas comes calling, gets him on campus. He decommits from Minnesota, takes a trip out to Texas Tech. But now I'm hearing it could be Kansas State and Arkansas again. So a lot of Kansas State and Texas Tech flavor on this list this week. But I think Arkansas is in a really good spot here. Probably don't feel quite as sure about it as I do Prudhomme.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going with LJ Prudhomme from now on. It's Lionel, obviously, but I think he prefers LJ. So we'll get that switched on his profile. But if you could get to 5 O-line commits before the end of July, I think that's pretty. That'd be great. And of course, still looking at some JUCO guys as well after that. So we'll have something, maybe a little intel on that later. We'll just say later.
And Danny, that's offensive linemen. I think it's important to develop within your program. I mean, you can get guys that are younger in the transfer portal and stuff too, and that's great. But I really think it's ideal to develop those guys. And you can, wide receivers and running back, skill players and stuff like that. I feel like it's maybe fine to
Plug
go out.
play.
But offensive line, it's really nice to be able to develop those guys within and, kind of create that bond and that culture with them over a long period of time. Yeah.
It takes you back to kind of my Marcusson days, early 2000s. Arkansas didn't always have the most talented. Now, sure, they would have a Sean Andrews. They would have those types, Louis and some of your better ones. But, there was a lot of 2- and 3-star guys that just stuck together for 3, 4, 5 years. And by the time they got their shot, Dan Doty was a really good player, in my opinion, So, I don't know. We kind of miss those days. And you bring up a good point there. Some of the chemistry and the bond, especially with an O-line group, just seems to mean a little bit more. So hopefully that's the case. Maybe one day we'll get back to that. But I'll wrap you up with Cameron Settles.
Another
going right back
guy.
to Parkview.
Yeah. He's the only one on this list, Danny, I guess, that's not July. He's August 3rd. So we're
celebrating his birthday that day.
Okay, gotcha.
So a good reason to delay there. Happy birthday to Cameron a month in advance. But it looks like Arkansas, Missouri, Arkansas State, Yale, Tulsa, and Memphis. So kind of a mixed bag there. And of course, as I said in today's story, I still like Arkansas's chances with Settles. It's kind of an interesting situation at running back, isn't it? I mean, you lose Jamarian Parker, which was a Jimmy Smith guy, which, that was expected after Jimmy left. Then they go and get, right before Jimmy left, he goes and gets Keelan Batten out of Atlanta, Texas. There was a little bit of question, when's he going to set an official? He finally showed up. Everything's rock solid with Batten again. So you've got one running back.
Yeah.
Still working on Montario Elston and his teammate in Settles. So when you're talking about 3 guys here, so
you seem to like their chances with Settles, though. I mean, you've got. I'm looking at your mock draft, and obviously Batten's on there at running back, and you've got Settle. I like how you do it. You do two different versions, and you have one with Batten Settles and one with Batten Settles and Montario Elston, and you do that for every position group.
Yeah, and you got to I think it's a fun time of year. I try to do it every July and just try to, and shoot, maybe that's a little too late. Might want to move it up earlier in the year based on how crazy June gets, but kind of cheats a little bit. But yeah, just for the rankings projections, trying to figure out the math of it, excuse me. And so you kind of got to mix it up and see different variations of it. But yeah, going to the mock class, if you want to break that down. But
I wanted to talk to you about obviously quarterback settled, running back could be settled with Settles, and wide receiver didn't mean to do that. It just came up.
Sure.
Wide receiver, you got Kamar Williams and Antonio Jordan, and you think that they might have a chance with Wade and Charles. You got him in your second version mock draft.
I do. Number 12 athlete in the country, 6'2", 185 out of Palm Beach Central. So a teammate of Williams, as we mentioned there, but recently decommitted from Miami. I think UCF is given, and Coach Malzahn.
UCF and Arkansas right now are the two that are trending for him.
Yeah, that's the way it looks. But I don't know, man. It wouldn't shock me. He sure seemed to like it in Fayetteville when we spoke to him, and obviously Williams helping with that definitely can hurt. So just wish I had a time frame on him. I hit up Wade and tried to get a potential announcement time. Haven't heard back yet, and which is not untypical. We're a Florida guy, big time guy. So maybe he'll get back with us and see what's popping there. But hey, that'd be a big one. 4 stars are really, really tough to come by in this cycle. And it's not a bad class, Trey. I don't want to get on here every week and make it sound like everything's just awful. I like a lot of the guys on the list. I like them all. There's something to like, but it just lacks star power right now. And fans get excited about 4 and 5 stars. That's just how it works. And we're not seeing a ton of that yet. Mm-hmm. So to be able to go out, if they were able to do it, to get a Wade and Charles, can you pull an upset somewhere? You need 2 or 3 more upsets. And that's kind of the trend. And what's shown in this mock class is when you get to the end of it, those two classes look drastically different in terms of rankings. So it proves that they're going to have to pull some upset somewhere. And that would be a fine start if they could get Charles.
So on the defensive line, Danny, Arkansas has got Keandre Johnson on board. Trent Sellers is on board. Rashad Bradley is a guy that you like out of East Mississippi Community College. You have him on, let's see, on one of your mock drafts. You also have Carius Kern. Now, we talked about Carius Kern. I don't want to repeat ourselves too much, but the only path, I think, for Arkansas to get Carius Kern on board is for them to win this season. I don't know that a coaching change with the early signing day, 6 days after the last game, I don't know that is going to give well, I mean, you wouldn't even have a new coaching staff. I mean, it's coaching search is going to be at least a week. So Carius Kern is gone unless
you would have to get him to wait. You would have to get him to wait to sign. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. And then let's see. Caleb Bell's on board at defensive tackle. JaQuinton Madison's on board. Xavier, you want to try it, Danny?
Nope. I'm going with X.
UKPONU. Ukponu. I think I nailed it.
Great.
I got it.
Ukponu. That's what I heard.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not going to go through everything on here because there's plenty.
I don't want to give it all away.
I don't want to give it all away, and there's plenty that you go into such great detail on just the different mock possibilities. And again, if you want to read Danny's content, then go to HawgSports.com and sign up for 50% off, or take us for a test drive 1 month right now for your first month. But go ahead and get on there today and take advantage of this offer. Also upgradable for monthly subscribers. You can sign up for 50%. So 2 great ways to sign out. To sign up, test us out, or go ahead and jump on board for 50% off and follow all Danny's recruiting information and all the other insider information we have at HawgSports. Danny, anything you want to add before we cut you loose here?
Keytron Jackson.
Keytron Jackson?
That's who we were missing earlier. Just remembered his name, wide receiver in 2021.
Oh,
that Arkansas signed up.
Okay.
Keytron Jackson out of Royce City, Texas. That's who we were forgetting earlier.
Well, I wasn't even thinking about Keytron. I was thinking, and Keytron was here for a couple of years. He had like 16 catches or something one year. I thought you were talking about the wide receiver, Ashton Bethel Roman.
Oh,
I thought that's who you were talking about, who was committed, never made it really to campus, signed with Arkansas, got out of his letter of intent. And where do you end up? Texas A&M?
A&M, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I had more for you, buddy, but that's kind of where it's at least there's some announcements coming up that I think are probably going to go Arkansas's way. And it's really, at this point, Trey, it's all eyes on Saturday. Saturday's a big day. You know what? I mean, we've seen what happens. You lose Courtney, you lose Carius. You need to start keeping some of these guys at home. It's starting to become a real problem.
Yeah.
You need to keep those guys.
Without a doubt. All right, Danny. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man.
All right, everybody. That's Danny West. Again, follow Danny at Danny West 24/7 on X and read all of his information at HawgSports.com. Okay, where are we going now? So what do we want to talk about? I've got a couple of things in mind. Hold on. We're going to bring up some of your questions here. So if you got a question, go ahead and get your question in. You know, with the situation it is with recruiting, and people have been frustrated a little bit because Arkansas doesn't have any 4-star commitments right now. They have one composite 4-star and Howes, the offensive lineman, but they don't have any like 24/7 Sports 4-star recruits. Where's what I wanted to bring up? Bear with me 1 second. Okay. So that was kind of a deal we talked, with when you're bringing Sam Pittman back, when, they go 4-8 and lost a lot of mojo and lost a lot of support and all that stuff. The problem for Arkansas fans is, the negativity that comes in. But from a recruiting standpoint, all these guys are being negative recruited against. And it's really hard to put together a bunch of 4-star recruits that want to go to Arkansas. And that's just the reality of it, because they're hearing all kinds of stuff like Arkansas staff's not going to be there and all this stuff. The only way around this is for Arkansas to win and Arkansas to come out and win early. The only thing that saved it for Arkansas fans is Bobby Petrino. I'm not going to go into that. I talked about that a little bit last week, but that's the only thing that had Arkansas fans going, okay, let's see what Bobby will do. So I just kind of putting some notes down, breaking some things down. I talked about this too last week. Arkansas, that fans, it's not unreasonable for fans to expect Arkansas to win 8 games. Now, I've heard from a lot of people on that. I think a lot of people misinterpreted what I said also, like saying that I was like thinking that Arkansas could win 8 games or predicting that Arkansas could win 8 games this year. That's not what I was saying. I'm just saying on the normal course of a year, just when a season is upcoming, for Arkansas fans to expect that they could go 500 in SEC play, that they could win their 3 easy non-conference games, that they should win those games, that they should win that other non-conference game half the time, that they should win a bowl game half the time. If you throw out, so Arkansas has averaged 6.1 wins a year since being in the SEC. Okay. And so people may say Arkansas is a 6-win program. Well, my thought is Arkansas should never win just 2 games or 3 games or 4 games. And I'll leave in 5 games for them to win. I'll say, okay, a 5-win season every once in a while. Bobby Petrino had a 5-win season his first year. You got a coaching change or something like that. Okay, 5 wins. So, and you know what? This day and age, it's not just always on the coach anymore because it's NIL comes into play, at least for right now. We'll see what happens with that in the future. But to me, if you throw out Arkansas's 2, 3, 4, and 5 win, 2, 3, and 4 win season, we'll keep the 5 wins. If you throw those out, and I know you can't just throw them out, but there's 12 seasons like that over the last 30 years. If you throw those out, then Arkansas averages 7.9 wins a season. So I think we could all agree that Arkansas shouldn't be having 2, 3, 4 win seasons. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, not 10, occasional 10-win season. A 9-win season, a 9-win regular season can put you in the college football playoff possibly. I mean, that's probably putting you right on the border for college football playoff, being in the SEC and winning 9 games in the regular season. So that can be a special kind of year. So I just, I just don't know that it's unreasonable for fans to want, desire, maybe expect is the wrong word, just because Arkansas has only averaged 6 wins. But I also think you should expect not to have a 4-8 season. And if you throw out the 4-8 seasons and below that, then Arkansas averages 7.9 wins a season as a program. All I'm saying is it's not unreasonable to desire or think that Arkansas should be on that level. So Arkansas can't lose, obviously, any of these easy games. And the problem is they've done it too many times. So the 92 team that lost to the Citadel went 3-7-1. The 93, 96, and 97 teams that lost to SMU went 5-5-1, 4-7, 4-7. The preseason top 10 team in 2012 that lost to Louisiana Monroe and Rutgers, which was in the AAC back then, went 4-8. 2013 team that lost to Rutgers went 3-9. The 18 team that lost to Colorado State and North Texas went 2-10. 19 team that lost San Jose State and Western Kentucky also went 2-10. So very few examples of Arkansas having a decent team that loses to a non-major conference type of opponent. The only ones that have done it are the 1995 team. The 95 team went 8-5. They lost to SMU 17-14. The 2015 team lost to Toledo and went on to go 8-5. And the 2022 team that lost to Liberty went 7-6. So odds are that's, most of the time when you lose a team like that, like in this case, it would be UAPB or UAB. UAB went 3-9 last year. UAPB was about the same. Those are not like when they lost to Citadel and they lost to Toledo. Those are teams that won like 10 games. But Liberty was coming off a 10-win season. I think they won 8 that year. But yeah, you just can't lose those kind of games. I don't want to go into a long deal about that and I already have, but that goes without saying. So what I look at with Arkansas and some of those upcoming games, like Oklahoma State, for example. Oklahoma State, and I've said this before, has notoriously started poorly, except for 2022. And they started well and ended poorly. Aside from that, since COVID, they have been a pretty bad starting team, even the year they went 12-2. So look at this. Let's break this down. Again, I just have these in some notes here. So Oklahoma State, the 8-3 2020 team opened the season with a 16-7 win over Tulsa. The 12-2 team in 2021, which is great. It's great to go 12-2. I'm not discrediting anything that Oklahoma State's done. I don't want any Oklahoma State thing to think that. I'm just saying, I'm not predicting Arkansas to beat Oklahoma State. I'm just saying they have kind of slow started at times. So they won in 2021, the 12-2 team, they won 23-16 over Missouri State, which is coached by Bobby Petrino. They had a 5-point week 2 win over Tulsa and a 1-point week 3 win over Boise State. Last year's Oklahoma State team went 10-4. They opened with a 2-touchdown win over UCA, a 12-point win over Arizona State team that went 3-9, and then they were blasted at home by South Alabama, 33-7, which just is really shocking. And then they lost to a very plain Iowa State team that was coming off a 10-7 loss to Ohio, by the way. Then later in the season, they were spanked by UCF 45-3 in Orlando, a UCF team that went 6-7. So that team, again, great job, 12-2. They didn't beat anybody by more than 2 touchdowns. I think maybe one team they beat. I think Cincinnati. Maybe Cincinnati. Cincinnati they beat pretty soundly. But they also had like a 42-point loss and a 26-point loss. I just think that's notable. Am I remembering that wrong? Is it the Cincinnati team? Let's see. I've got these a little too scattered. Not a lot of transfer portal action for them. I think they were like 64th nationally, 69th nationally in the transfer portal. Didn't have a lot of guys leave. They didn't have near the turnover what Arkansas had. Auburn has a lot of change too. They've got 2 new coordinators. I don't think Peyton Thorne I think he's a pretty average quarterback overall. He did handle Arkansas pretty consistently on the air, through the air and on the ground. Arkansas totally let go of the rope at that game. There's 10 players that are key contributors, like on the defensive side of the ball, that were probably thinking about, what next year holds, because that was not the same defense that played LSU in the first half, at least, that played Alabama or Ole Miss or Mississippi State. It wasn't the same defense that we saw. I mean, that team last year, that Auburn team went on the next week. Who did they get? I think it was New Mexico State. New Mexico State hammered them in Jordan-Hare Stadium right after the Arkansas game. It's just no excuse for Arkansas to get whipped 48-10 at home. I mean, maybe Missouri had a little more reason to beat Arkansas that badly, but not Auburn. Missouri went 11-2 last year. So, and then Texas A&M's, replacing, I had Mike Elko on Arkansas's coaching search Hawks board in 18 and 20 when he was defensive coordinator at Texas A&M. Of course, everybody was just scoffing at the idea of not bringing in a sitting head coach. But I think he's a good coach. He did big things right off the bat at Duke. They won 9 games and coming off of back-to-back seasons where they won a total of 5 games. So he hit the ground running there. But when you look at the scope of the SEC, out of the 13 teams that have returning head coaches, that have coached already at their current institution. That includes Texas and Oklahoma. Only 5 of them had winning records, and that would be Brian Kelly, who would be the standard at 10-4 in 2022. Kirby Smart at Georgia went 8-5 in 2016. Georgia had gone 10-3 the year before that. Josh Heupel at Tennessee went 7-6. Shane Beamer went 7-6 in 2021. So that's it. That's it. Everybody else had losing records their first year as head coach, and Texas A&M has a lot. They're starting over again in a lot of ways. So again, I'm not predicting Arkansas is going to win any of those games, but for Arkansas to have success, in my opinion, they've got to go like 2-1 in those games, because I think it's way easier to let go of the rope this year than it will be, than it might have been last year, when they still lost to BYU, but rallied and went to LSU and played them to within 3 points, and still fought against Texas A&M before Texas A&M had to let go of the rope themselves. It took all the way to that Auburn game before they just kind of let go of things. You might say that about Mississippi State they let go of Enos, and then they played well at Florida. But it would be easier, in my opinion, to let go of the rope if you start off 0-3 in those really tough, which it's ridiculous that they have to go outside the state of Arkansas to play Oklahoma State, Auburn, and Texas A&M. It's not right, really, but that's the card they're dealt. And it also presents an opportunity, because if they can do well in those games, they can build some mojo, some energy, some belief within the team. And there's, 10 new players on this team that are in starting and key backup roles that, there's I don't know. I think it just brings a new vibe to the team. So if you can inject them with some early wins, then maybe things open up a little bit against Tennessee in Fayetteville, bye week, LSU in Fayetteville. There's some key games in Fayetteville that a team with a little juice behind it, might have a chance at winning. And I'm not saying, I'm not predicting Arkansas right now to go 2-1 in those games or anything. They're going to be picked to lose probably all of those games at Oklahoma State, Auburn, at Jordan-Hare Stadium, and then Arlington against Texas A&M. They're going to be picked to lose all those games. But they don't play the games on paper, as they say. Anyway, that's my thought. So, but if you lose those games, I could see the season just disappearing on us, and we're just kind of waiting. Just where Arkansas is. Let's check out your comments right now. Cat Bailey says, all aboard. Heartbroken Hog says, what's up, my hogs? So Bill Caldham says, what's a realistic win-loss record for the Hogs this fall, in your opinion, sir? Well, I kind of went over that a little bit. I mean, if they start off well, then I think it's a bowl team. I think it's maybe a firm bowl team. If they don't, then I just think that there's a big gap between what this team could do, and largely based on the idea of letting go of the rope if things don't go well early. If things go well early, rally, I just think it could be easy for this team to let go of the rope, given how things went last season, Here we go again mentality. I'm not quite ready to give I've said kind of casually 5 wins. I'm not sure that 5 wins is a good pick. I think it could be like 3 or 4 wins or 7 or 8 wins. I think that maybe not room for anything in the middle. And again, just depending on how those games go early. I just don't think that there's, a scenario where Arkansas goes 0-3 against Oklahoma State, Auburn, and Texas A&M, and they rally some kind of way. In this climate, a lot of people be looking where they're going next year. I think that happened right about the Auburn game last year. Nima says, Trey, if we lose to Okie Light and Texas A&M, does Pittman get his walking papers in Jordan-Hare Stadium? If they lose to Oklahoma State and Texas A&M, Auburn's between those, right? So, no, I don't think so. Let's see. Do I have the schedule? because it's Texas A&M. Yeah. Yeah, so they play Auburn before Texas A&M, so he wouldn't get in his walking papers against Auburn. But if they lose all 3 of those games, I still don't think it would happen at that point. You have a bye week after Tennessee, and then you have another bye week after Ole Miss, between Ole Miss and Texas. If things really go south, that's probably when, things could go that direction. And hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully these guys rally around Pittman. I know that they like him generally. I know they want to fight for him. I know they love the defensive staff as well. I'm hoping that it doesn't come to that. I'm hoping that we get to cover a winning football team this year. And Sam Pittman is the head coach for the foreseeable future and proves all the doubters wrong. I mean, that's the ideal scenario. I know everybody wants change and sometimes a fresh start if things aren't going right, but this program hasn't exactly been on strong footing, and there are other factors at play as well. NIL would probably be one of them, especially when you're talking about competing against upper echelon SEC teams. NIL comes into play. If you're talking about competing against Oklahoma State, which Arkansas will play in week 2, they don't have the NIL budget that Arkansas does. Very few teams outside the SEC do. Caden Rose says it's tough being a Hog fan, Trey. Yes, it is. This past year was one of the worst seasons for Razorback fans in a while because, the football team went 4-8. The basketball team we had high expectations for it, and it just tanked. And, I thought it was interesting how they ended football season, hiring Bobby Petrino, and they ended basketball season hiring John Calipari. It's pretty wild. And then the baseball team did very well. They won the West, but they did not reach the expectations that I think a lot of people had of maybe this is the year that Arkansas gets it done. But it's hard to say like the baseball team is a disappointment when they really outshine the other sports and, were ranked in the top 5 all year. Just listen to your Cover 3 with Bud Elliott, podcast on Arkansas. Great video, Trey. I have not seen that yet, actually. I didn't know it came out today. What are some big changes with the team this time last year you have seen? Big changes, aside from like personnel. Obviously, there's big personnel differences, but there's a renewed energy, I think, with bringing in so many new players, new faces, players from, programs that have had success like Utah and Boise State. Not that they had just overwhelming success, but those guys are used to winning. But I think that there's, a little bit different vibe. I definitely feel that with offensive line, and how players kind of talk about Bobby Petrino versus some of the things, maybe I heard about Dan Enos. So that'd be the main thing. I mean, based on what I see happening this season, I guess I would be predicting that there's going to be a lot of change after the season. That's not what I want to happen. That's not what I think most Arkansas fans want to happen. I would like to see Sam Pittman stick around until he's ready to move on his own terms and Arkansas have success. Honcho Razorback says basketball looking elite, baseball also looking really strong. Yes, basketball's looking elite. I've felt that before, but this is just a different level. This is different than anything we've ever seen. There are like maybe 7 NBA players on this team right now. So pretty cool. People going nuts over Bear McWhorter decommitting, saying, oh, look, Pittman can't keep recruits when Bear only committed to the Hogs in the first place because of Sam. Been wild to watch. Yeah, and Bear's a good player. He's a 3-star recruit in the class of 2026. There have been some disappointing decommitments. Obviously, Carius Kern stands out. Courtney Crutchfield stands out. That's a disappointing decommitment, in-state guys. But all teams have that. And Arkansas still keeps the majority of their players inside the state, especially when you compare them to other states. Relative to other states, Arkansas does a great job keeping their in-state talent. The problem is Arkansas is not as big as some of these other states like Pennsylvania and stuff. They really need to do a better job of keeping guys like Carius Kern, Courtney Crutchfield, and Walker White too. Walker White was kind of a situation with different philosophies in quarterback recruiting with Dan Eno's coming in kind of late to the party, and Kendall Browse liking other quarterbacks just because he wanted more of a dual threat. Don Eldridge said, congratulations on saying X seamlessly and things of that nature. Pittman's gotten good, and he's recognized it, and everybody has their hang-ups, their things that they say. I say too much. Pittman says things of that nature. But I have been getting better at saying X. I think everybody has. Are we going to slowly transition to finally calling Twitter X? Like y'all, all the kids from Georgia, he would have had committed to whatever school Pittman went to. I'm not sure what you're saying there. Heartbroken. Will Bonham says, hey, Trey, what is your favorite Houston Nutt memory? And do you miss Houston Nutt years and the passion he brought to the program? A buddy, my roommate in college and after college, I mean, he was my friend still, obviously. But he always said one thing about Houston Nutt is he never got us scrounged. West Memphis guy. Never got us scrounged. And that's true. Like we talk about Western Kentucky and San Jose State, North Texas and Colorado State, Toledo, some of these programs, Liberty. That didn't happen under Nutt. The only thing that would be close to that would be losing to UNLV that year in the bowl game. And then they avenged it the next year. Didn't play well in that game, but they avenged it. That would be the only thing. But as far as like regular season goes, they never lost to non-major conference teams under Houston Nutt, not once. And Houston averaged about, I think, 7.5 wins during his tenure. They really were impacted negatively by the Herod trucking situation, which was a 3-year investigation, which was just ridiculous by the NCAA to carry on an investigation that long and basically hand down a slap of the wrist penalties because people were really negative recruiting Arkansas over that, really negative recruiting, and they were impacted. And so they had 2 bad years under Nutt, 4 wins, 5 wins. And then guess what? He's like, when he was flirting with Nebraska and almost took that job, one of the things he was saying was, I need a couple of years to get this program back on solid footing. This is before the transfer portal and all that stuff. I need a couple of years to get the program back on solid footing. And that's exactly what it took. And then they went, 2006, they went, no, it wasn't 2006. My timeline's messed up. But they won 9 games right after that. They had back-to-back seasons of 9 wins right after those 2 bad seasons. But yeah, they weren't losing these types of games under Houston. And you can say what you want about the guy, and I know a lot of people will because that was a very tumultuous time. I've never seen the state so divided as it was during the end of the Houston Nutt reign. But when I think of Arkansas football, a lot of times, and I think of the coach, a lot of times it's Houston Nutt that pops in my head. And I know other people may have Frank Broyles or Ken Hatfield or even Lou Holtz, or Bobby Petrino. He pops in there a lot too, but Houston Nutt days were fun. I mean, the thing about Houston Nutt days too, like when you woke up in the morning and the fight song's playing in your head. I used to wake up like when I was younger. I'd wake up and it's like da 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 da. I don't know if I can do that, copyright, but when I would wake up and that would start playing in my head. It's game day. Just a different smell, a different feel to the day. Always felt like he had a chance when Houston Nutt was coach. Always had, felt like they had a chance no matter who they played. Oh, that didn't even answer the question, though. Favorite Houston Nutt moment? Man, beating Tennessee in 99 was pretty cool. I was a student then, rushed the field. On the video where the uprights snap, I'm in the video. I can see myself. I'm like right under it. That was pretty cool. Favorite Houston Nutt moment? I'm trying to think of a football moment, but I don't know. I always enjoyed being around Houston at camps and stuff when he was very active. It was just Houston Nutt. Collie Hog is tired of sucking and losing all of our in-state players. I don't think you're alone there, bud. We shouldn't lose any of them. I mean, I can understand it happening occasionally, but the rate that they're losing elite guys is just, it shouldn't be happening. And, again, in this day and age, it's not just straight up recruiting. There's also NIL involved. NIL is playing a major part in recruiting. And that's at the same time, like when we talk about what Sam Pittman should be doing, and, people talk about should he be fired? Does he have the resources that he needs to win in this conference? Does he have the NIL budget? Now, they have NIL money. As I've said before, Jalen Braxton isn't getting paid pennies. Landon Jackson's not getting paid pennies. Luke has, isn't just doing this for the love of the game. And there's a big part of it, but, you can't turn your nose up at hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's getting paid. Fernando Carmona could have gone to Auburn and chose Arkansas because he's getting paid part of it. I mean, obviously you find the spot that you want, but you're also getting paid. So the NIL money is there in some cases, but is it enough? Is it that upper level? I'm anxious to see what happens when schools are starting to pay players, just straight up. And if that'll kind of put the problem, and I've said this before, is the collectives. Now, this is the game that we're playing right now. So if you want to win, then you probably ought to be donating to Arkansas Edge. I mean, it sucks. Arkansas was 20th in the nation in athletic revenue last year at $167 million, which is up there. But Arkansas Edge is behind. They're not going to reach their drive for five, their $5,000 goal that they want. And so we can sit here and complain about all this stuff. And it stinks that they're asking the average everyday fan for money to pay players. But that's where we are. So if you want to win, you got to ask yourself how much you want to win. And it sucks that that's what it is, but that is what it is. That's a big part of it. Now, it doesn't come down to everything. There's things about Pittman that he's got to do a better job at, his in-game decisions, making the right call, whether it's to punt, go for it, kick a field goal, go for it. Those types of decisions are critical. Arkansas loses too many close games. Or is it coaching that just keeps them in those games and they just fall short due to talent? Who knows? Trey, if we had 11 more points a game from last year, how many more games will we win than last year? That's how much Petrino improved A&M last year, and albeit if they had 11 more points per game, let's see, 11 more points per game. They beat BYU, they beat LSU, they beat Texas A&M. No, they don't beat Texas A&M. They lose to Texas A&M by a point, though. They beat Ole Miss, they beat Alabama, they beat Mississippi State. So those five, and, who knows how that would have transformed things against Auburn and Missouri. It's fun to think about stuff like that, but, the butterfly effect. So 11 points could be conservative. Hey, if you want to talk about improvement, look at where Arkansas's defense was last year, specifically pass defense last year, 2022. Look where their pass defense was. They were dead last nationally in passing yards allowed. Dead last, 131 nationally. And then 2023, bring in a new defensive coaching staff, new coordinator. Suddenly they're 34th nationally. Defense was actually pretty good last year until you got to Auburn. I mean, really, defense played well against Western Carolina, Kent State, BYU. If you go back and look at the BYU game, they gave up 38 points. Most of that is not on Arkansas's defense. Special teams, the offense played a big role in Arkansas surrendering 38 points, not on the defense. Played lights out against LSU for all of the first half, except for the last 18 seconds. Again, playing a Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, they battled against Texas A&M. They didn't just lay down. It was just Texas A&M was playing pretty well in that game. Held Ole Miss to 27 points, almost won that game. Held Alabama to 24 points, almost won that game. Held, Mississippi State wasn't very good on offense, but they still only scored 7 points, and that was enough to win the game. Florida, it went into overtime. There was a little flurry there at the end, but for the most part against Florida, they played pretty well, and then just let go of the rope against Auburn. Florida International, 44-20 win, and then let go of the rope against Missouri. So. Honcho says, at least we have have Coach Cal. Yep. Let's see what else we got. Darius Acuff will be a Hog, number 4 player in the 25 class, says Honcho. Mr. T. Booyah. Yay, another year of suck. We can't recruit and we're allergic to wins. The kids from Arkansas are going everywhere but here. Listen to them. People can see we're a dead program. Only we can't. I get my umbrella because it's about to start raining in here. It's okay, though, because we have a coach that likes cold beer. Oh, everybody, don't act like, Collie Hog, don't act like you aren't just like, oh, I love Sam Pittman after his cold beer. And, you know, the best Sam Pittman comment was when talking about Cincinnati, you know, some teams, you're going to find out pretty early what they like. Like some team, what do you say? Some teams like iced tea, bring iced tea to the picnic. Other guys bring liquor. He had to have been holding that one for the right moment. Our coach has a great personality. What's your football team like? Our coach has a great personality. You know, sometimes that you say that kind of tongue in cheek, but sometimes that is a key ingredient is to having a coach who like has social issues in a way, like who can't get along with people, who is awkward, maybe a little just kind of crazy. That's kind of a lot of coaches are like that. A lot of coaches are like that. You think Nick Saban's just like great personality guy? He seems awkward to me. I mean, we're losing recruiting battles to Tech, K-State, Mississippi schools we've already lost. I mean, I can understand losing to Mississippi schools right now. They probably have 5,000 to 7,000 people giving $50 a month right now on their collective. I can understand losing to Ole Miss. Not Mississippi State, not K-State, not Texas Tech, which I don't think they have yet, but go watch out for K-State, always stealing major SEC talent away, said no one. Well, they have. I mean, Arkansas doesn't lose recruiting battles to those schools. Texas Tech, K-State, they just don't. Okay. Mr. T. Dubia says, as hard as Biddy and West work, they deserve. I mean, that's what I say all the time. Like, you know, people say, like, you know, I should be completely impartial. I think I can call it like it is. I mean, anybody who's seen my walk and talks and stuff, no, I call it like I see it. I'm not like, you know, I don't feel like in this day and age of media and where we are, like you're going to tell me you're going to turn on, I'm not getting political, but you're going to turn on MSNBC or Fox and you're just going to get unbiased reporting. No, you're not. Um, I went to the University of Arkansas. I grew up in the state. Like I'm just supposed to act like none of that happened. I think I can call it like I see it pretty good. I mean, people may disagree, but it seems to be working for us. I would like to cover a winning football team. I would like to go to a good bowl game. I'd like to get up and excited about making a road trip. You know how miserable it was taking road trips during during the Chad Morris era. I mean, it sucked. I don't want to do that. Like go spend all this money, all this time traveling, you know, airports, all that stuff, hotels, and it's over in the first quarter. Yay. So much fun. I'm sure all media people are just impartial to that. Whatever. Give me a break. Get over yourself. Hey, folks, at least we know Pittman and Petrino will do everything they can to have a winning season. They know if not, they're gone. That's true. It's make or break. Okay. We're going to wrap it up. Hey, if you haven't signed up right now for HawgSports, HAWGsports.com, sign up. 50% off or test drive it. $1 for your first month. No promo code or anything. Just go to HAWGsports.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and sign up. Number one insider source on Arkansas sports and recruiting. Get Danny West recruiting information, Connor Goodson's basketball recruiting information, and all of the editorials and insider information that we bring to the table at HawgSports, HAWGsports.com. All right. I feel good about it. You guys feel good about it? What does pop out this video? What does that mean? All right. Learning new things about StreamYard as we go. All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining me. And yeah, I keep saying that. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.